Anthony, so great for you to join us today to
Hello,
talk
Frank.
about. Basically, we'd like to pick your brains in terms of English teaching
Hmm.
in Australia, obviously, where you're based, but also relate your knowledge to what we're doing in Indonesia.
Hmm.
Um, for the sake of our viewers today, I just want to share a slide for everyone, which you're familiar with, but just in terms of the BookBot application. Um, so, for the sake of our viewers, what we have here with BookBot is a voice recognition reading system that young children can use to read books when their
Hmm.
parents aren't around to help them pronounce words. So, the children read out loud, and the computer tablet makes sure that they're speaking correctly, and if
Hmm.
not, it tells them the right words to continue reading. So, it's a learn to read out loud app.
Hmm.
And so now Anthony, we're talking to Anthony today because of his background as a English teacher, although focused more at the higher end as in high school. He's got some interesting views on BookBot. So Anthony, you've had a look at the BookBot app. What were your impressions?
Well, Frank, I think that the BookBot app um, fulfills a keen need in certain communities, certain households, situations, um, even some classrooms where maybe a child is, for example, give you an example, I teach a lot of Chinese Australian kids or kids that are newly from China, on the older end, of course. But even with the older end, I've noticed that the kids that are quite new to Australia, because they speak Mandarin at home and they speak Mandarin with their friendship groups and they go to schools where they have friends who predominantly speak Mandarin,
Mm-hmm.
they generally don't have a lot of experience practicing English
Yeah.
and reading English. Whereas, say, let's scale it back and imagine that kid arrived in Australia not at the age of 14, but at the age of 5, 6. They might still be in a household where the parents speak only Mandarin, and so no one's reading to them in English. Um, and because they're so young, they're quite new at school as well. So they're having to learn two languages, Chinese and English. So a thing like BookBot in their household, where their parents can't really speak English, would be a wonderful thing, because suddenly they have to read a book and there is a voice telling them back that it's not the word, I don't know, um, it's not the word gem, it's the word gem. And until they get that word right, they can't proceed. It's quite
It's
useful.
yeah. It's the app was built so that you don't need to be online. As you know,
Mm.
most things when you're using a mobile phone or a tablet, you tend to be online.
Yeah.
We've been able to crunch the books into the device, so we've got hundreds of books that sit on the mobile phone or on the tablet. Um, what's your view on that in terms of being able to use it without being connected to the internet?
Oh, well, again, Frank, I think it comes back to that idea of, you know, um, trying to meet the needs of people that are least enabled. You know, there are people that don't have access to internet. They don't have access to online spaces, um, and
Well,
so
it's interesting that you say that because we're looking at also regional Australia, where
mm,
the native Australians live in areas where there's no no Wi-Fi,
sure,
no cellular network, yeah,
yep,
where they can go into town, download the app once and
yep,
for all, and then can go back onto the properties where they live and be able
mm,
to use the device even though they're off grid from the
yep,
telecoms network.
great. I mean, again, I can see so many uh, places where this particular, would you call it an app or a program or a, what was the term you would use?
Yeah, we tend to call it an app, for lack
Mm.
of a better word.
Okay. Where this app has a lot of, I guess, promise, a lot of, you know, just application.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's wonderful.
It's well, in Indonesia, where we've ported the Indonesian language called Bahasa onto the device, yeah. Their problem is they Indonesians live across about 2,000 islands, and
Sure.
so you have dialects in those islands of Bahasa. And what they're trying to do is to have Indonesian young people learn what I'll call the kind of midpoint language of Bahasa, which isn't a dialect, because they want young children to speak a singular version of Bahasa, so that when they come into, say, Jakarta, that they speak the same the same Bahasa
Right.
as the people in Jakarta. So from an employment point of view, you don't want people that have dialects and so on. So that's
Sure.
why the education on islands, which is often off grid, some of them are small islands. There's no Wi-Fi or anything.
Yeah.
So that's why um, we built especially for Indonesia as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, well, Anthony, thank you for your input on that. I know you're very busy, so we'll let you go. But I really appreciate your comments today, and let's keep in touch. We always look forward to having you on the show here, and your insights are really appreciated. So
Thank you.
we'll look forward to chatting with you soon.